It's Thursday, the 10th of May, 2018, and this is your EV News Daily. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. A very warm welcome from London in the UK. Here is today's news about electric cars and the future of transport. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV article online so you don't have to. Coming up on the show today, BMW's wireless car charging is coming soon. India's government approve green license plates, and the dry Analyst is begging for more time with Elon. But first of all, only yesterday I was talking about a 1 minute long YouTube video. It was all shaky and blurry, and it showed the Mercedes EQC. And there was me yesterday on this podcast going on like a numpty about how the bonnet looked too long for an EV, and we need to see more of this car. And then, exactly a few hours later, Fully Charged released their own 20-minute gorgeous video of Johnny Smith in the passenger seat. As they say, Johnny Smith goes for a ride in the Mercedes-Benz EQC. This SUV is the first Mercedes EV to be built from the ground up, and it'll be the first of a new range of electrified cars to be announced later this year. Well, the EQC is still in testing, so this is a very early look at what is to come in the near future. Look, Johnny's style is just so good. If you've not seen his recent videos that he's been working with Robert Llewellyn on Fully Charged, he's relaxed, he asks the odd cheeky question, he's so passionate about cars as well. He gets these little bits of info out of the people who he's interviewing. And I was only saying to someone last week, I was talking to a friend of mine who works on a car magazine, and I was saying how Johnny is just the best of the best on TV. When it comes to telling the story of a car, he's just got this real gift to take you on a journey on anything he presents. And I was saying how he's so good, and then my friend says to me, "Oh yeah, Johnny used to work for me on a magazine. He's a really good friend of mine." Okay, I'm glad I was saying nice things. Not that I ever said anything nasty about anyone really, but it was like really fortunate. He's like, "Oh no, I know Johnny really well." Well, it's confirmed from people who do know him. He's a total legend. Anyway, look, enough of the man crush that I have going on right now. Let's get back to the cars, the Mercedes EQC. I'm going to say a couple of details about the video that Fully Charged released. So if you would prefer, stop the podcast now and watch the video and come back to it. Well, Johnny started off by saying it was their first proper EV that Mercedes have made. I don't know whether he meant ground up, but he said it was the first EV they'd made, which I said before once on the podcast, and I got corrected by a very generous listener to the show. And rather than calling me an idiot, he sent me a picture of his Mercedes-Benz B250. They have made an EV before. This is not Mercedes' first one, but it's the first one from the ground up, I suppose. Well, things we learn from the video: it's a 70 kilowatt hour pack coming in the Mercedes EQC. That seems small. What do you think? I mean, 70 kilowatt hour doesn't blow me away. They claim, and this isn't according to the EPA or WLTP range, they claim they're aiming for 500 kilometres or 310 miles from that pack. And that sounds enormously optimistic for what's a 2-ton car, right? That would be, 14 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres? Yeah, that's not going to happen. Well, the Model X is something like, what's the Model X? 380 kilometres? And the pack on that is 5 kilowatts larger. It's a 75 kilowatt hour pack. So, yeah, let's see what the Mercedes engineers have done with their software and their efficiency. Well, the person who was doing the driving of the EQC, and actually most of the talking, was the lead engineer on the project, which was refreshing, if I'm honest, as he wasn't a typical PR media type. I had a PR guy in the back seat, but he didn't really speak. It was the perfect antidote to that kind of media fluff. And it was he gave the perfect answer as well, without saying anything superfluous. You know what PR people, they talk a lot, but they don't really say anything. Everything this engineer said actually had value. In other words, a typical engineer. And bear in mind, English wasn't even his first language. Well, talking about the engineer who was driving it, the lead engineer on the EQ project, he kept stabbing the accelerator. He kept saying to Johnny, "Look at this." And he was really giving it some, and talking about that burst, that instantness of EV power. And every time he did it, the engineer had a little smile on his face. And so did Johnny. It looked like a lot of fun. Well, yesterday on the podcast, I commented that the bonnet was too long for the typical EV style, like the Jaguar I-Pace. With that, for instance, they have shortened the front, little frunk in there, if you like, just the crash structure, and it makes more room for the cabin. There's a reason for that, obviously. It's not like Mercedes kind of overlooked it. Oh yeah, we forgot to make the front smaller. Under the hood, or the bonnet, is a cradle, and they couldn't show it on camera, but Johnny described it. It's a cradle that fits where the combustion engine would go, so Mercedes can use the same production line and drop in a different powertrain, electric, hybrid, or gas. That is a different way of doing it. Well, Johnny ends up at the end of the video on his hands and knees, and I won't spoil that surprise if you haven't watched it. And finally, if you have been watching Fully Charged over the years, and if you haven't, if you just found it, go to YouTube and just scroll backwards, and you'll see Robert Llewellyn talking about trying to cajole PR departments into returning calls or playing ball with lending him some vehicles. It is years ago now, right? But you fast forward to today, and they have the best videos than any TV show, full stop, on TV, on streaming, or on YouTube. I've got a live event coming soon, got a massive Patreon supporter base now, and huge congratulations to him and Johnny and Mark and Dan and the team for creating the best channel out there. It's a gorgeous video, some really classy tracking shots. They got the drone up as well. Looks great. All right, let's move on. And Car Magazine report that BMW will debut its wireless charging in July this year. And it's set to work with BMW's plug-in hybrid EVs. The Car Magazine article says this: BMW sources told Car today, this is yesterday, the 8th of May, that the tech is indeed headed for our market, and it will be available exclusively on a leasing deal, only with the 5 Series, the 530e iPerformance plug-in. Well, to start with, at least. Well, wireless charging can be as good as a home level 2 charger running at 7.7 kilowatts. This, though, runs at 3.5 kilowatts, gives you a full charge for the battery in 3 to 4 hours. There's leeway on being over the charging pad, but cameras are going to guide you into the correct position. Well worth following Car Magazine on socials, by the way. I think they're one of the best ones out there for great content. Well, in India, they've confirmed green plates for EVs, private electric cars, and EV cabs. Well, the purpose behind distinctive number plates is because they are easy to identify, preferential treatment in terms of parking, free entry into congestion zones, and other proposed benefits like concessional toll and road transport, says moneycontrol.com. Well, this is what we need here in every country for ICE cars parking in electric charging bays. If we all had green plates on EVs or qualifying hybrids, say the ones that did more than 20 miles or something, so a decent-sized hybrid battery pack, then legislation could be introduced to ban ICE cars from charging spots. Then they could get towed or at least ticketed, and that would solve that. Well, the analyst who fell out with Elon Musk on the earnings call, I didn't catch his name. We'll call him Dry Dave because Elon called his questions dry. So he got cut off by Elon Musk last week on the investors' call for asking what he said was a dry question. And Dry Dave, let me Google his real name while I'm chatting, see if I can do two things at once. Anyway, he's a little bit upset. And you don't want to be upsetting analysts because, well, they might give you a bad analysis or something. What do they do? Anyway, Dry Dave has written an open letter to Elon Musk. This sounds a little bit needy already, if I'm honest with you, an open letter. Anyway, he says this, and I quote, "I continue to hold Tesla accountable for implementing a strategic vision that aligns with an ability to execute at scale. Name the time and the place, and I will be there, along with every one of your major shareholders." So he's begging, end quote, there. So he's begging Elon for more time because he got cut off on the investor call. I mean, that's embarrassing, right? You're on an investor call and you're with all your peers. Some of them are friends. Some of them you're trying to impress. At least all of them are people who in your sphere of business. And Elon cuts you off. I mean, that at best, it's embarrassing. At worst, you get your nose out of joint. Anyway, he's also written down in this letter a set of questions which he wants to give to Elon Musk in the hope that he'll get more time. Then these questions, I presume, are, I don't know, More wet, I presume, rather than dry. Somehow, I don't think Elon Musk is going to give this a second of his time. Here we are. I found it online. His name is Joseph Spock, the Analyst. Oh, Spocky, the Spockster. I wouldn't hold your breath, Mr. Spocks. Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said yesterday that German car makers are moving into a better position for battery production. The actual cells inside batteries, of course, nearly all made in South Korea or China. Volkswagen-owned truck maker Scania said earlier this year they're going to be investing €10 million as part of a €4 billion project, which is currently building Europe's biggest battery cell plant in northern Sweden. Well, yesterday on the podcast, we were talking about how 50 million Americans, or 20%, 1 in 5 Americans, said they would buy an EV for their next car. And now the Irish Mirror says 1 in 3 Irish motorists are planning on buying a new car in the near future, and it'll be a full electric. According to their survey, just under 1,000 people asked, a total of 37% questioned said they will buy an electric car the next time around. Well, from July 2019, all new electric and hybrid vehicles sold in Europe must be equipped with sound devices. And older electric cars are going to have to be retrofitted with sound devices by 2021, says Garage Wire, according to European regulations. Kevin Clifton of the Royal Society of the Prevention of Accidents said this, and I quote, "The greatest risks associated with EVs are when they're travelling at low speed, such as urban areas with low limits, and the noise from tyres and the road surface and aerodynamic noise are minimal." End quote. Well, yes, Kevin, that's the joy of an EV. People still have eyes, you know. I do think we need to consider those who are visually impaired, and we need a solution for that. I don't have the solution, but we need to find a solution because nobody should be hurt by a motor car ever, whether it's ICE car or an EV. But making every single car on the road emit noises under 20 miles an hour is frankly irritating and badly thought out. Driving around any major city in the world, you never get above 20 miles an hour. And with the windows down on a hot day, your EV would be louder than driving an ICE car, because it's going to be beeping and buzzing and making white noise, like those things that play when you have to get off to sleep. Multiply that by every single car in front of you and behind you, and it's going to be horrific in major cities. It's just simply, there's just going to be this low level of noise of the various different things they concoct to let you know cars are coming. So we need to find a solution. I don't know what that is, but making every single car emit a noise when it's below 20 miles an hour, even if you're in the middle of the countryside with nobody around, or in the middle of a city, it seems like it's a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I don't know. We don't want anybody to get hurt. That needs more thought. Well, I would love to spread the word about electric cars. If you can, please share this with somebody who might be interested. Maybe you can think of someone right now you'll share the podcast with. And even if it's one person, you and I have helped spread the word together. Every previous episode, if you're interested, if you just discovered the program, by the way, they're all online. The podcast is on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, also iHeart Radio podcasts, and SoundCloud. The blog is evnewsdaily.com. And if you subscribe on any of those platforms, you haven't got to think about it. You get it first and free and automatically. And you can catch up with us on our socials, Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter. Just search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you tomorrow.